Good evening, everyone. Welcome to day 60. First of all, can you believe that it is June already? I just had my birthday in early April, and that was like, 3 weeks ago, something like that? I know how calendars work, but it just, time compresses. Anyway, t-shirt. The t-shirt today, nothing special to write home about. It's actually one of my oldest Alistair shirts that says you're never fully dressed without a smile. However, this also includes a wonderful thing that happened this weekend, and that was my spouse making me a fantastic piece of art. This is a wire-wrapped bass clef, and they just do incredibly amazing work. So anyway, today was the first full reintegration day after the retreat weekend, and honestly, it went substantially better than I expected it to. Because the goal today was very specifically not to force reconstructing everything. It was not to chase any new breakthroughs, and it was not immediately to throw myself back into all the unstable stuff. So, in simpler words, basically, let the system come back online calmly and see what's actually there. Right away, this morning's Be Prepared session started with a noticeably lower bass voice. Oh yeah, very bass. I remember immediately thinking, okay, this one's going to be dark. However, playback revealed that the vocal color itself didn't come across as overly dark. It actually sounded deeper and smoother instead. Okay, some of the bass notes absolutely still refuse to fully project in the middle of the piece, which, as usual, will always drive me a little crazy because laying in bed that morning, the night before, all those notes were just there effortlessly. The octave change, because I wasn't trying to stretch or push, it was intentionally skipped this morning because I didn't want to immediately push the system, especially after the weekend. Anyway, that decision preserved a large amount of continuity through the rest of the piece. So I always make notes of how a piece felt to perform and then how it sounded. And one of my favorite realizations this morning was that I started to playback, and the first thought that went through my mind was, that was no calibration, that was my wife. Okay, it's an old reference. But what I initially thought was slight sluggishness or softness wasn't actually sluggishness or instability at all. It was emotional coloration. This time, instead of dragging, it had this legato, almost sinister sound. I mean, in a way, it actually felt intentional instead of disconnected. And that's an important distinction. I mean, I could hear there was an actual emotional reason the piece was sounding that way rather than just lagging behind and not having the energy. The theatrical immersion that I've been sort of dancing toward has clearly returned, because at the very end, on that closing slide, Be Prepared, I kind of kicked off of it with a growl. And that was not correct, but it was emotionally fulfilling, but it definitely let me walk away from that take going, okay, character is back online. Now, the second pass became even more interesting because I went into it with a very specific mentality. And it's a mentality I try to maintain when I do more than one take. Don't reproduce. Don't recapture. Don't anything. Just start fresh. You've done everything. Just keep going. That mindset always changes everything, because the two small glitches that happened in the previous pass evaporated on their own without any direct correction. Theatricality was still there. The energy stayed stable, and even I thought there was a moment my energy dipped, but I couldn't find it on the playback. So, of course, annoyingly, again, relaxing into the take, instead of controlling it too tightly, improves the result. Yep, relinquishing control continues to be the one thing this entire process keeps hitting me in the head with a brick over. Now, about the only thing I can nitpick is at the very beginning is the word backside. And the emphasis, the way the notes go, want it to push toward backside, which musically the sustain itself is correct, but emotionally it's really sounding unnatural. And it's one of those things occurring where the musical correctness and the theatrical correctness don't necessarily always line up. The biggest thing that happened was actually something I unintentionally did during a playback. I did not perform the octave change this time around. And on the second pass through, I'm just listening and the octave change comes, and without forcing or any pressure, thinking undisputed, and I'm sitting there and I just went, and I was like, wait, I didn't have to hit the note. It, as I'm singing along with the playback, it just floated up to where it was supposed to be. It hit the notes cleanly. Even that high note on line 2, it was all graceful. And of course, really low volume, and there's no forcing. So the notes are there. I think the clearest message that I got during the session was pretty much I just still need to psychologically get over myself. After session, it was a long weekend. My sleep schedule got messed up. I kind of dozed off. But when I woke up and I thought to myself, whoa, okay. I actually did a video recording of myself singing Be Prepared. Admittedly, having just woken up, the bass notes were definitely there. So it wasn't a fully polished production, nothing like that. I held my iPhone playing the music, and I said, okay, let's see what happens if I just do it in front of the camera right now. So, for anyone interested, because I don't do this very often, I need to get more in the practice, just to show you me, half conscious, here's a little bit of me doing Be Prepared.
I know that your powers of retention are as whipped as a warthog's backside, but thick as you are. Pay attention. My words are a matter of pride. It's clear from your vacant expression. The lights are not all on upstairs, but we're talking kings and successions. Even you can't be caught unaware.
Yeah. I'm not sure what to make of it yet, but I put it out there. Now, meanwhile, this afternoon's Boulevard session became very heavily about continuity, coexistence, just getting out of that it's not a marathon mentality. I've been thinking marathon, not a sprint. And I didn't want to force anything technical. First take was honestly very much recalibrating. I'd been down for the weekend, and then from the morning I was down a few hours, so the energy line was kind of coming back online. But interestingly, even in that first pass, the F4s seemed to be right where I hoped they'd be, and the chorus arrived naturally. Playback revealed that the energy did stay a little low through some of the first couple of sections, and that, of course, caused bumpiness, but even with the support not there, when section 4 came up, it kind of calibrated itself. And that's really nifty because section 4, every time I look at it, it's like looking into Al Capone's safe. If you know, you know. So even though the first pass wasn't great, it gave me something really important. And that was a usable gauge to say, okay, that was the energy I just used. I hear how low it was. Now I know where the energy wants to be to balance everything else. So I led directly into the next take because I knew where the energy needed to be or wanted to be, instead of where I was trying to force it to be. And that really changed everything. Number 109 became the first moment in quite some time where the piece genuinely gave me the impression of being bounceable. And for those who are new to the term, it means it was worth saving for review later in checking progress. Now, one of the biggest realizations centered around that line, that first line with the word lonely. I walk a lonely road. Because I finally realized I had to get to that note without stretching for it. The other F4s were coming along. Why not this one? So I went to the tape. Well, the audio file. And I checked the note. D sharp 4. I had been thinking it was another F4. So I'd always been overreaching, overshooting, and entirely not knowing where the target actually was. I had to stop behaving like I was reaching towards something uncertain and instead just allow myself to arrive where the note already lives. I have my little piano app. I started practicing the corrected note. I kept repeating it until it was familiar. It was definitely lower than where I had been thinking or aiming. Playback showed section 1 finally tightening up. Section 2 becoming about sustaining the energy line instead of surviving it. Pre-chorus actually landing on the note, even if they felt slightly tenuous. And section 4 finally began pulling together instead of simply behaving like a mystery. Now, by the time I got to take 110, the mentality had shifted even further away from correction and more toward just focusing on the forward movement. At that point, the mindset had basically become anything currently being fixed or worked on is already in the process of being fixed. Don't pay attention to the past, just move forward. And that carried directly into the take because for the first time in a while, I went beyond thinking that the take was bounceable. I thought after a month since last contacting them, the person I had exchanged information with, who is a vocal coach, I felt I could actually send them something a month later to say, okay, after your advice and my working, here's the progress. It absolutely does not mean it was perfect. It was not even close. But the playback confirmed that things are improving step by step. Even section 4 is taking steps forward. So after 110, I stopped, and I wasn't exhausted. I was not fatigued, but I realized continuing into 111 would almost certainly turn into micro-correcting. And that is something that is not the point, and it's something I don't want to do. So I bounced all 3 takes from Boulevard. Honestly, one of the strangest realizations came afterward when I looked back and realized it had been almost exactly 1 month since the original demo was sent off to the vocal coach. And looking back through that whole exchange, I think one of the differences now is that the process no longer feels like manually assembling singing line by line. The phrases increasingly feel like they want to connect naturally on their own. And honestly, I think that may be one of the healthiest changes this whole process has produced so far. Okay, last news. I have been dropping little hints. The script is mostly finished. There is a new series I'm going to be starting this week. I am currently finishing off the artwork for the thumbnails and the other little things I need to make it easy to put this thing together from week to week. I am hoping by Wednesday that I will be good to go. And I'm hoping that the new series will be interesting. Again, there was a hint about has been, but yeah, it's sort of growing out of the song Brighter. But more on that in the week. I will actually do a pre-setup for that episode. Day 60. Apparently we did it. Let's do it all again tomorrow and call it day 61. Later.